bought a 1965 Karmann Ghia restoration project from California. Dennis from Vintage VW is doing the bodywork and paint. I'm doing the mechanical, electric, interior, and assembly. The restoration begins with building the chassis. But this thing's giving me the blues.
Dennis, what's up? You're being recorded.
You never cease to amaze me. You're recording this thing?
Yeah.
Me too.
This is an exciting moment in my life. Wow, this looks awesome. It's all wrapped up. Christmas in February.
This is pretty cool. I just got the chassis back from the powder coating shop, and I'm ready to go. I've been collecting parts for weeks. I have a rebuilt transaxle, got a rebuilt front end, I have all new brake parts, all my suspension parts are ready to go. So I'm really excited. I'm ready to begin reassembling the chassis, and I also need to get it done fairly quickly because the body is in the shop right now. It's getting painted, so I need to put the chassis together really quickly so I can reunite the two and have a rolling and running car. So let the fun begin. Okay, hold on a second. We have a problem. Turn out the lights and you're gonna see it for yourself. What's this? Wait, what are those things? Is that stars in the sky? Is that some kind of constellation? Sadly, no. These are holes. They're holes in the pan. Frickin' pinholes, dude. Sucks. You know, the powder coating shop, they could have called me on the phone and said, hey dude, there's a problem. We just sandblasted your floors and we found some holes in it, so you want to fix that, right? You want to fix that before we powder coat over it. Or should we just powder coat over the holes and take your money? So what do you think they did? So at this point, I'm kind of stuck, and I just don't really know what to do from here because this project is not going to move forward if I have holes in the floor. So yeah, these pinholes are driving me crazy.
I got the pinhole blues on the old, feeling like old Fred Flintstone. Put a hole in my wallet and a hole in my head, toss this thing out the door. Bad Karmann Ghia won't leave me alone.
All right, see this stuff? This is pour patch. And it's waterproof. You can apply it over rust. It's for steel, wood, plastic, concrete, seams, expansion joints, and professional use. So I'm going to apply this black goop to these pinholes, and I'm going to do pinhole eradication. Pinholes will be gone.
Oh, okay.
Time to stop crying like a baby and just deal with the problem, get it fixed, and get it over with. That's my motto. So these holes, I'm gonna fill them with this material. Once the chassis is built, it's gonna go back to the shop and going to paint and undercoat. So I'm gonna be able to retain the original floor pans because honestly, they're like 98% good. They're 98% original and solid, and that's gonna be a much better solution than replacing them with aftermarket pans, which don't fit, don't look good, and it's gonna take me a lot more time and money to finish and get that working. Lots of sand. This car came from the desert, and it was media blasted, so it's full of media and sand from California. So I patched up the floor. I have the pinholes completely eradicated. I cleaned most of the Sahara Desert out of the tunnel. Threw all that dust out. And now I'm ready to move on to the next step, which is to bolt the axles onto the transaxle. I've done this a few times. It's not terribly hard. It's a bit of a pain in the neck because you have to install and uninstall this axle tube a few times to make sure that you have the right clearance using these gaskets. You don't want a lot of end play, and you want to make sure that this has some slight drag on it. All right, I'm going to start with 2.3 millimeter shims, and we're going to see how this feels. Okay. All right, well, this thing is completely loose. So I have 2.3 millimeter shims in here right now. Paper gaskets. I'm just gonna leave one in here and try this over again. I'm getting little to no resistance or drag here at all. Okay, see this axle tube right here? See this part? This is garbage. This is gonna go into the scrap iron pile because this flange is bent or kinked and I can't get a good fit to the transaxle, and I have too much end play. It's way too loose. It's never gonna work. So this is gonna set me back a couple of weeks while I track down a new axle tube. At least the left side is good. Axle tube blues. Well, this axle tube is messed up and I need the boot. I could try to stretch this over and pull it off, but that would risk breaking it and then I'd have to buy a new one, and I don't feel like doing that. So really, there's only one thing to do. Okay, well, a quick look at that. There it is. In one piece, and I saved $12. And this goes in the trash. Oh! Oh, damn. Lost my helper. Okay, got this thing back on jack stands. I've blown about 90% of the dirt and dust out of it. There's still some left in the tunnel, but I'll see if I can vacuum it out. And I'm still waiting on a new axle tube for the rear suspension, so I can't work on that. So for the time being, I'm going to work on the front suspension. That starts with getting this bolted onto the frame head. Okay, bolting this on is actually quite easy. It's basically just 4 bolts. It's as simple as that. Of course, it would be better if I had an assistant right now, but I don't. Okay, 36 foot-pounds. Pretty cool. I've actually finally made some progress on this thing. All right, so this gooey, disgusting mess, these are the torsion leaves, and these get installed inside the tube of the axle beam. Except, I'm noticing something here, which is not good. This stack of torsion leaves is complete, and this is incomplete. It looks like the previous owner took out a bunch of these torsion leaves, maybe to soften up the front suspension or lower it or something. All right, so until I can replace these missing torsion leaves, all work is coming to a complete stop. This is gonna set me back at least a week or two, so I'm feeling pretty frustrated, pretty much dead in the water, and this project is not moving forward. I got the torsion leaves. Okay, I'm not having great luck, but what I can work on, the only thing left to work on, honestly, is the spring plate. So I want to check the angle, make sure it's set up properly, and I also want to check the bushing. So I'm going to take this cover plate off and see what's doing inside. And they're actually pretty loose. Okay, so after I remove this cover plate, there's really nothing holding this. Oh my God, there's only, it's missing a bushing. So that is curious. Here goes nothing. Wow, look how dirty this thing is. Holy cow. I've never seen a torsion housing this dirty before. The previous owner didn't put back the outer bushing, and the inner one is cracked and dry rotted, And to top it off, it was baked inside a powder coating oven. So this thing is definitely trashed and has got to go. But when you work on an old Volkswagen, you're going to find a lot of unpleasant surprises like this. Okay, so what I'm doing here is resetting the angle of the spring arms and replacing the bushings. Everything has to be just right. I don't want the car riding too low and look like it's angled backwards and dragging its butt down the road. And I also don't want to reset it so that it's too high and riding like an SUV, because that would also look ridiculous. So everything has to be just right and gotta make it perfect. And look at this. Bushing is also missing on the right side. Why am I not surprised? I fixed the passenger side, and I'm feeling really good about my spring plates, as good as a normal person can feel about that topic. They're reset to the stock height and are as good as new. All right, well, I can't work on the beam right now, and I'm nowhere near ready to install my motor. This motor is for a different car, for a different project. But what I do have is a brand new to me, used, freshly painted, right axle tube. This is very exciting. I paid 75 bucks for this, and before I bothered painting it, I tested it first and figured out I need 2 gaskets to set up the axle properly. So sanded it down, painted it, and I think it came out pretty good. So that wasn't really too hard. The hard part is getting this single piece axle boot installed. And I did it! All right, time to stop goofing around and get this thing installed. Okay, step 1, grease up my side gear. Slide this in. Okay, ready to insert it in here. Not going in. What the? Come on. Guess what? This differential gear is garbage, does not work. This is an aftermarket part, was not fitting inside the transaxle. This thing is useless, so I'm not able to put the axles on today like I thought I was going to do. So unfortunately, all this stuff needs to go back into storage right now. Aftermarket does not work. Aftermarket is junk. Stay away. You've been warned. Differential ain't fit inside gear blues. But the good news is that I just picked up something that is going to help me, and it's over in the corner of the garage, so let's take a look at that right now. All right, so what we have here is a link pin beam off of a late 50s Beetle. It's got a great big hole in the side here, so this thing is pretty much junk, but the good thing about it, as you can see, are these torsion leaves. I'm going to take these out right now and get them installed on my beam. Okay, here comes the fun part. Like 60 years of gunk. Slide these new to me torsion leaves in, and I'm in business. There we go. Okay, I've got upper and lower control arms here, and left and right are interchangeable, so I'm gonna do this upper control arm first. So right away I'm having a problem. The control arm is hitting the bracket that comes out of the side of the beam, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure how to make it fit or how to lift it over. I'm trying everything I can think of. Putting the snubbers on, taking the snubbers off, beating it on. I take a break, put my frustration and my embarrassment aside, and I phone a friend. He's an expert, and he's gonna tell me exactly how to handle this. So the deal is, without the weight of the body pressing down on the beam and the wheels, the control arm is gonna rest on that bracket no matter what. It's totally normal and fine. I just need to lift it up and drive it in. So I don't need to be concerned about that, and I'm gonna keep moving forward. The lower control arm slides right in since there's nothing blocking it, obviously. And now that I have a clue, the passenger side is a snap. Okay, there it is. The rest of the beam build goes pretty smoothly. I get the left and right spindles and link pins, followed by the steering box, left and right tie rods, steering dampener, and the shocks. left and right. Okay, the final piece here is sway bar. Okay, so here it is. Here's the finished beam. I'm pretty proud of it. You can do it too. All you need is the correct parts, some tools, and a big pile of cash. Okay, there's still a bunch of dust left in here and debris, and so I'm gonna try to get that out again. Ladies and gentlemen, I am back in business. This is a new to me, used German side axle gear. Had to drive 2.5 hours round trip for this. They don't sell this down at Walmart, obviously. Take 3. Let's see if I can actually do this. And cut. Okay, step 1. Take some gear oil and grease up my fulcrum plates and my side gear. Grease up the end of the axle spade. Slide this in. Next step, that goes in there. Actually fits this time. Okay, next step, thrust washer. Next is circlip washer. Then I lube and install the plastic spacer. Now my paper gaskets, and then the axle tube. Bolt the axle on with reinforcement plates. These are meant to prevent leaks. Next, the internal spacer. Then the wheel bearing. That side is done. Just got to do the same thing on the opposite side. Okay, so I've got the transaxle on the floor. I moved it off the stand, nearly broke my back doing that. I recommend getting help if you want to do this. I've wrapped up the frame horns with some padding here, and I've wrapped up the swing plates so that when I install this, it doesn't scratch up my powder coating here. Okay, this gets torqued down to 25. Now I'm bolting the transaxle to the frame horns. Gonna snug it down. And the axles to the spring plates. I was on YouTube watching a video of a Beetle assembly line, and they showed 2 guys installing a transaxle, and they just slid it in, bolted it on. Probably took them less than 5 seconds. It's taken me considerably longer, but this is not an assembly line, and I am an amateur at this, not a real mechanic. All right, I'm gonna torque shock absorbers down to 43, and then I'm basically done with this. All right. Okay, so far this project's been kind of kicking my butt. It's been giving me a lot of difficulties, not just getting started, but figuring out what I'm doing and dealing with all the wrong parts and et cetera, et cetera. But moving on, brakes are something I actually have a lot of confidence in. I've done this many times before. So why am I putting drum brakes on the car and not installing discs, you may be wondering. I actually put disc brakes on my last project, and the problem with them is that since then they've doubled in price. It's about $700 for the front axle and $700 for the rear. So definitely way more expensive. The other problem with discs is that they add a ton of weight per wheel. So that really adds up, adds a lot of rolling resistance to the car. Do they make the car stop shorter with less heat buildup and brake fade? Yes, probably, but I don't care. Drum brakes are gonna work fine if they're properly installed and maintained. Muscle cars from the 60s, they all had drum brakes, and those cars were bigger, heavier, and faster than any Volkswagen. And the other thing is, you don't get your money back when you customize a classic car. If anything, you're gonna lose money because it's not original. And I'm putting a single circuit master cylinder in the car, which is just fine in my book. I'm not worried about it failing because I'm not going to be driving the car all that much. It's not going to be a daily driver. And in the unlikely event that the master cylinder does fail, I always have the handbrake. Just yank on that sucker and you'll get the car to stop. So just when I thought things were going well, I seem to have run into a new problem. Check it out. Reach my finger in here, I can feel the opening for the clutch cable tube, and it's broken right here. It's broken off the mount. It's also supposed to be mounted right underneath the opening for the handbrake, and you can see right there, it's broken off. And it's also supposed to be welded into the back. It's yet another thing that should have been fixed before I had the pan powder coated.
I got the clutch tube blues.
So unfortunately, when it comes to doing repairs inside the tunnel, there's really only one way to fix this. All right, well that's gonna be a real bitch to weld shut. This is the loose clutch tube that I have to weld back onto this bracket. I fixed the front and it's good. It's not going anywhere. This weld is guaranteed to last for the next 50 years. Moving on to the middle. Again, I have to mangle the tunnel by cutting a big hole. Okay, so right there is the broken bracket. Once that's done, I move on to the rear. I put a weld on the clutch tube under the inspection cover area. It's a good thing I caught this because not only was the clutch tube loose in the tunnel, but it wasn't sticking out far enough from the back of the body. And that would have affected the Bowden tube where the clutch cable rides. And if the clutch cable didn't have the right dip, then I would have clutch chatter. So to translate that into English, that would mean the car would drive like shit. So with the tunnel open, I figure I might as well go ahead and replace the fuel line. I feed a new line in from the rear. I snake it through the middle, trying not to get it all tangled up in the heater, the clutch, and accelerator tubes. Then it's up through the front, past the pedal cluster area, and out the top of the frame head. Now it's time to fix the damage and weld the tunnel shut. Hey, you want to know something? I'm actually a terrible welder. Total amateur hour. If I had to do this for a living, I'd be fired. And through the magic of editing, my lumpy welds are ground down, primed, and painted. Okay, there's just a few more details left to wrap up. If you hadn't noticed by now, I'm super picky. I'm not building a jalopy, I'm trying to build a really nice car, so every detail has to be perfect, otherwise I won't be able to sleep at night. So the next thing I'm gonna do here is put in my new and improved shift rod bushing. What? Almost got it. Ooh. I think that was it. Okay, there it is. I slide the shift rod into the tunnel. Okay, just gotta slide this down through the new bushing and connect the shift rod and the coupler to the transaxle. Tighten this down. Now I'm getting my tunnel inspection cover bolted on. This keeps moisture and junk from flying into the tunnel when you're driving down the road. And on the back of the pan, there's an extra hole on the left and the right side that takes a rubber plug. I don't know why they decided to put extra holes in the floor instead of solid metal. Maybe to remind you that it's gonna rust out eventually. I really don't know why, but they have to go back because they're original and the floors will leak without them. And on top of the jack points, there were originally some flat pieces of rubber here, so I'm gonna glue some new ones down. And then on the front beam, I realized that maybe I put too much paint on here because the steering box is the ground for the horn. So I'm gonna take a little paint off underneath the steering box in order to get a good ground. And of course, I can't forget to hammer over these retaining tabs so the beam bolts don't come loose. If the front suspension falls off, that could be bad. Not gonna lie and say that was fun and easy. A lot of times it was really hard, really difficult. Part of that was because the parts that I had that didn't work or wouldn't fit or were broken or whatever. And the other half of that equation was the fact that I'm not a real mechanic, I'm an amateur. So I didn't 100% know what I was doing at all times. But overall, I'm very proud of the way it came out. The bottom still needs to get undercoated, and obviously I'm still waiting on wheels and tires. And the big piece that's missing is a body. I don't have a body ready for the car yet.
You know, restoring this chassis might have given me the blues, but now I'm crying tears of joy.
If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications because I have a ton more videos coming out that are all specific to rebuilding a Karmann Ghia. I'm gonna go over the mechanical in greater detail, the interior, body, paint, seats, so many topics I can't even remember them all. So to sum it all up, if you're looking for new ways to waste your money and waste your time, get yourself a Karmann Ghia.
Waste of money and a waste of time. Italian